July 16th, 2024. Coming with another message, report, whatever you want to call it, whatever you think it be appropriate. As I stated yesterday, I'm going to continue to make these videos because they are going to continue to push their heightened narrative. They're going to seize hold on a crisis opportunity, as I heard someone say yesterday in a video that I watched, exposing the staged event. I know that's going to sting a lot of ears. When you call a spade today, you tend to sting ears. When you call a liar today, it seems to be very offensive. When you call a drunkard today, or a filthy drunk, it seems to be very offensive. And so, especially when you have a psychological operation take place and somebody stands up with the balls and courage to call a spade what it is and say it's staged, people tend to get very, very in their feelings. And I would just say, if you're going to get in your feelings, you need to get out of your feelings. You need to go look at everything they've been telling you and showing you for the last 72 hours. And some people don't have that ability because they're running around all day long. They're being slave driven to death, and they don't have time for anything else but maybe their job or whatever. And I understand that. But I would ask you to set aside some time and to go look at the narrative that they give you. Because it is of great importance that you understand what is going on before your eyes. That I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe that this event took place right before the Republican National Convention. I don't believe in coincidences, people. I believe people do things calculated, especially when it comes to secret societies, especially when it comes to the New World Order. Especially when it comes to the world stage. I don't believe in coincidences. And neither should you. Because a lot of the times it's people themselves writing things off as that was happenstance, that was coincidence. And that's how the magician can fool you with their trickery. And that's what we have before us today, a great illusion taking place. And I hear such nonsense like God's hand is with Donald Trump come out of the mouth of Christians. God's hand is not with Donald Trump. The New World Order's hand is with Donald Trump. And then they'll say things like, pray for him. Did you pray for Biden lately? When's the last time you prayed for Joe Biden, Christian? All I ever hear is pray for Trump. But do you pray for Biden? Do you pray for Joe Biden? You pray for Trump. Do you pray for Joe Biden, Christian? Are you a hypocrite? And most people that are going to hear that will have to admit they're being a hypocrite. Oh, it says here to pray for all men. Does it not? I pray for all men. I pray for these people, the secret societies, that they would come out of it. That they would renounce their oath of secrecy that they have taken. Their covenant with death and hell that they have taken. And my prayer for them is that they would renounce that. They would fall on their knees and give their life to the Lord Jesus Christ and come out and speak out against the secret society that they have taken an oath to secrecy to. Which would mean they would be a dead man in the water. Most likely. And that's what happens when you come to Christ. For all these fake testimonies that you see with Hollywood actors and movie stars and musicians. They seem to make this profession of Christ, but they continue to stay in the very industry that they signed a contract to as they sold their soul to the devil. Very interesting, isn't it? How they continue to stay in that industry instead of renouncing that wicked industry. They continue to work for that wicked industry and produce for that wicked industry. Alice Cooper is one of those people. Go look it up. Again, I challenge you to go look into what I'm talking about. I challenge you to don't believe what I'm saying. Go look and investigate what I'm saying. I'm here to provoke you to thought. I'm here to provoke you to go search these things out. That's why I've been making these videos, is I'm trying to provoke you to go and search these things out and stop believing every single thing that television tells you. Because there is a huge web of deception. The Masons have a saying, and it says, "Oh, what a tangled web we leave when we lie and wait to deceive." It's a very, very, very intricate web of deception. And you're not going to be able to figure things out unless you look, unless you investigate, unless you observe. You can be diligent in the Word of God, but you can't be diligent to figure these things out. You can be diligent in work, but you can't be diligent to figure these things out. These things are important. These things directly affect you. And whether you want to admit that or not, that's for you to stay. If you want to stay ignorant to this all, that's on you. You can act like it, but it directly affects you. And one day it's going to directly affect you so much that it's going to put you in a position. That's my challenge to you this morning. Stop being simple and believing every word these people tell you. And you'll say, well, here he goes again. He's coming out with another one of these conspiracy videos. Exactly. It is a conspiracy. And if you've read your Bible, you've seen that word in the Old Testament multiple times. Conspiracy does not mean that is a maybe. Conspiracy means absolute. Now, there is a term called a conspiracy theory, and that's the maybe. But I'm not pushing a theory. I'm pushing fact today. And what I'm saying is truth, whether you want to believe it, whether you don't. That's up to you. You want to stay ignorant to these things, then you continue to stay ignorant to these things. But it's willful ignorance on your part. And don't get mad at me because I'm coming on here and I'm speaking exactly what's going on here with this trash. Because like I said, they're trying to seize hold on an opportunity right now where the people are absolutely euphoric because of what has happened. This is how they do it. And I have a list of things that I'm going to be talking about here. 7 different incidences that they have used to push forward their New World Order agenda. These people are not enemies like they portray to be on screen. I've said this before. This is 2 wings of the same bird working together against you. America is supposed to be about we the people, not about them, the government. We are supposed to be keeping them in check. The document is the government. But we don't do that. We haven't been doing that for a very, very long time. And that's why they've been able to capitalize and systematically inch their way to the end of your nation and my nation. Because people don't speak up and talk about what I'm talking about. Because they're afraid that someone's going to think they're crazy. Listen, if you came to Christ, people already think you're crazy. If you start talking about this stuff, oh, that's like taboo amongst Christians. We don't go there. Well, sorry, I go there. Because this is a very thing right here that God had used to, before I came to Christ, to draw me to Christ, was the things that I'm talking about. The very things I'm talking about, the very things that I had started seeing in 2012 when I had come back from 2 combat tours in Afghanistan to realize my country lied to me. Was the beginning of how I started to seek out truth and found the truth. and ultimately drew me to Christ, because I realized that the people that are in power in this world are Luciferians. And there's very few of them. But because of the knowledge that they have, they are able to manipulate and control the people. They've been using the same playbook from the beginning. All the way back to Nimrod in Babylon, they've been using the same playbook. And it's passed down from generation to generation. And these adepts and these priests of the mystery schools are raised up. They're placed in their position, and it continues on as it did since the beginning. But nonetheless, Make America Safe Again is the title today of what the Republican National Convention is going to be talking about. Make America Safe Again. Okay? And why? To me, that is the most laughable slogan on the face of this earth. Make America Safe Again. How is it that the only nation on earth that has the right to keep and bear arms, and it says, and it shall not be infringed, has to have the government talk to us about making America safe again? Why is that? Why? Why would they even need to speak on making America safe again? Shouldn't a place where the people have a right to keep and bear arms, that it shall not be infringed, shouldn't that be the safest place on the face of the earth? Well, I can tell you, it is supposed to be the safest place on the earth. But for some reason, the government has to tell us how we can make it safe again. I'll tell you how it would be safe again. If every single American male and or female walked around with an open carry. I'm pretty sure that would make America safe again. I'm pretty sure that would deter anybody from doing anything illegal. I'm pretty sure the numbers would drop down very, very low. But the reason people don't do that today is because of over time, they have run game on the people, and they've used terrorism as their means to put you in fear, as their means to take rights from you. They've passed laws behind your back as to where if you have to have a permit to concealed carry. That shouldn't even be allowed. But since we let it get to that point, since we let them walk all over us, and we let it get to that point, they take another inch, and another inch, and another inch. And just like the devil, before you know, he's taken a mile. make America safe again is extremely laughable, people. You want to know why the crime rate is so high in New York and Chicago and some of these major cities? Is because of the very thing I'm talking about. People don't even have the right to carry in most of those places. That you can get felonies for having a weapon in those types of areas unless you have some super special permit that you must acquire and get permission for the government to have. When it, once again, what's the law of the land say? Shall not be infringed. But it's been infringed. And because it's been infringed, because we give them an inch, they continue to take a mile. And they continue to come up with slogans like, we've got to make you safe again. And because, yes, you cannot, these cities that I'm speaking of are so crime-ridden because people can't bear arms. What do you think the enemies do? What do you think the violent people do? What do you think the people who have bad intentions do? They know people aren't armed, and so they get arms illegally, and it makes their job a lot easier. And then you'll say, well, we have all these police and this and that. Well, what are the police doing? Are the police really stopping anything? And isn't that interesting how we have all these police and they're armed to the teeth and they look like Marines in Afghanistan with Kevlar and flak jacket and AR-15s and all this weaponry on them, and yet they can't seem to keep people safe. They can't seem to stop terrorist attacks. They can't seem to stop a 20-year-old from getting on top of a building in a presidential rally and shooting somebody from 130 yards away. They can't seem to do anything right. When are you people going to wake up? It's a good reason to be on fire. It's a good reason to be fired up about this. Because it's absolutely ridiculous. And if you can't see that, then you cannot see the forest through the trees. You can't see nothing. Make America safe again. I can't wait to see what they're going to say. Oh, it's going to be quite amazing. Quite amazing. I have a few things that I believe they're going to speak on. Obviously, they're going to talk about the assassination, and they're going to speak on why that is a reason, is why they have to make you safe again. Schools. All these mass shootings that they've been pumping down your throat since like 97 to now. Whether they be real, whether they be staged, you see nothing but incompetence, 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 incompetence. If you go investigate these stories over and over and over and over and over again. Yet, we've got to be more dependent on the police when they're not keeping anything safe. What are they keeping safe exactly? Mostly today when you deal with police, they're nothing but thugs. They're nothing but thugs with badges and guns trying to intimidate you, trying to incriminate you. Nothing but extortioners, nothing but money collectors for the just us system. They're going to talk about how they can make the public safe again. Let's just fund the police some more. Let's just give them military vehicles. Let's give them MRAPs and MATVs that the Marines have and drive around in Afghanistan and foreign countries, armed to the teeth. armed to the gills. Let's give them that. Do you see what's been happening? Your police is militarized. And it's for very good reason, because of what's coming. And one of the instances I'm going to speak on here in a minute is a perfect example of what a militarized police can do when they go door to door in a neighborhood looking for some pyrotechnics. Somebody who dropped some pyrotechnics at the Boston bombing. Another staged event. They're going to talk about, like I said, that we got to give more money to the police. As if we haven't given them enough already. And we see the incompetence over and over again. And we see the mindset of them over and over again. As we hear about civilians being killed and murdered all the time. All the time. By these thugs with guns. But anyways, they're going to talk about how they need to heighten security at events as if they already had it. Do you see what it is, people? Do you see what's going on here? I hope you do. I hope you're smart enough to figure these things out. But it's taken time to get to this point. And they've used events, crises, and they've capitalized on them over the years. And the first one I have here is the LA riots of 1991. You want to know about these things, all you have to do is do a Google search. This stuff is so easy to find. There is nothing difficult about doing research in this hour. Nothing difficult at all. There's nothing difficult in this hour to get educated on the things that I'm talking about. I'm not special by any means when I bring these things to you. All I have done over the last 12 years is just paid attention. That's it. Paid attention and believed nothing I was told. Because once I figured out that they were lying about 9/11, all that has to do is you have to come to that realization to realize, well, if they lied to me about 9/11, surely they're lying to me about other things. That's how that begins. Just like I'm telling you today, and I've been telling you, that this event is staged. It's a psychological operation. And you want to get in your feelings and you want to whatever, and you'll say, oh, people died and all this stuff, and maybe people did die. But nonetheless, now you have plenty of evidence out there saying that these Secret Service agents had this guy in sight and didn't do anything. Why? And that's all that needs to be said about it right there, to know that there's a flaws in the story. And once you can realize that all these parties work together against the people, then you can put it together properly. But most people are just going to point their finger at the Democrats if they start believing that it is staged, and they'll say, well, they set it up. No, they're all in on it. That's why a guy can get shot in the ear, grazed in the ear, and part of his ear doesn't come off. You people better wake up. You better start using your brain. The easiest way to fool somebody is to do it right in front of their face. And that's what they're doing with this. That's what they did on 9/11. That's what they did in Boston. That's what they did in Oklahoma City. That's what they did in Waco. I'm not denying people don't die in these things. I think in other instances, people really don't die in some of these staged events that they do. But part of their game is sacrifice because they're wicked. Because the God they serve, when they start talking about God, they ain't talking about the God of the Bible. When are you people going to wake up? When they start talking about God, they're not talking about the God of the Bible. When they start talking about Jesus, they ain't talking about the Jesus of the Bible. They're talking about that little effeminate Catholic Jesus. That those Catholics and that spirit put that Jesus on the cross. That same spirit today. And it'll be the same one, that same spirit of Barabbas that puts you on the cross. Just like it said in John 16. He says they'll kill you thinking that they're doing God a service. Yes, the God they worship. It's not the God of the Bible. And with these people of the secret societies, these people in Washington, these liars, these magicians, they don't serve the God of the Bible. When are you people going to wake up? Christians get all up in there. They just all heightened in emotion when Donald Trump will mention God. He ain't talking about the God of the Bible. So easy to deceive Christians today. That's why, Jesus said the children of this world are wiser than the children of light. Oh, how true that is. That's a quote for today, isn't it? The children of this world are wiser than the children of light. The 92 LA riots, the 1992 Los Angeles riots were a series of riots and civil disturbances that occurred in Los Angeles, California, United States during April and May of 1992. Unrest began in south central Los Angeles on April 29th after a jury acquitted 4 officers of the Los Angeles Police Department charged with using excessive force in the arrest and beating of Rodney King. This incident had been videotaped by George Holliday, a bystander to the incident, and was heavily broadcast in various news and media outlets. Now, in 1992, we didn't have cell phones that we could just whip out and start recording, did we? What are the chances of that? This guy was just happened to be there. And then, just like we've seen over the years, they run the same thing. People being beaten to death. People being suffocated by police officers. And then there's backlash every time. They've run this game many times. They've used this many times to bring forth chaos. The incident had been videotaped by George Holliday, who was a bystander to the incident and was heavily broadcast in various news media outlets. The rioting took place in several areas in Los Angeles metropolitan area as thousands of people rioted over 6 days following the verdict's announcement. Widespread looting, assault, arson occurred during the riots, with the local police force had difficulty controlling. See, we've got to arm them because things like this are going to happen. Right? We got to make America safe again. The situation in Los Angeles area was resolved after California National Guard, United States military, and several law enforcement agencies deployed, more than 10,000 of them armed first responders to assist in ending the violence and unrest. When the riots had ended, 63 people had been killed, 2,383 had been injured, more than 12,000 had been arrested, and estimates of property damage were over $1 billion, making it the most destructive period of local unrest in U.S. history. Koreatown, situated just to the north-south of south-central L.A., was disproportionately damaged. Much of the blame for the extensive nature of the violence was attributed to LAPD Chief of Police Daryl Gates, who had already announced his resignation by the time of the riots for failure to de-escalate the situation and overall mismanagement. Again, another city up in arms because of corrupt police, right? Unrest. And we've seen that. We've seen that in when Trump was in office. Riots broke out in Minnesota and lots of other places. We've seen this before. We've seen it many times. But how you deal with that is you have an armed populace. You don't take away and infringe upon that right. Because a lot of that is to blame because of that. Because in these areas, I don't know how, and I don't exactly know when, I can always look that up, but in these areas, through time, they've been able to strip rights. And when you start bringing areas where there is no means of protection and they have to rely on the government to keep you safe, people don't stay safe. All it does is it empowers evil people to do evil things. That's why cities are so dangerous. It's intentional. My next incident was a standoff in Boundary County, Idaho on August 1992 called Ruby Ridge. On August 21st, deputies of the United States Marshal Service came to arrest Randy Weaver under a bench warrant for his failure to appear on federal firearms charges. During a surveillance operation, Officer Art Roderick shot Weaver's dog when it ran at them, and then pointed his rifle at Weaver's son Samuel, who was armed. Samuel fired back at the marshals and was shot and killed by the team in the ensuing exchange of fire. Weaver's friend Kevin Harris shot and killed Deputy Marshal William Francis Deegan Jr. Weaver, Harris, and members of Weaver's immediate family refused to surrender. The hostage rescue team of the Federal Bureau of Investigation became involved as the siege was mounted. In the standoff, FBI sniper Lou Horrick shot Weaver, then shot Harris, but the second shot also hit and killed Weaver's wife, Vicky. The conflict was ultimately resolved by civilian negotiators. Weaver's old military acquaintance had to convince him to surrender. Harris surrendered and was arrested August 30th. Weaver and his 3 daughters surrendered the next day. Extensive litigation followed. Initially, Randy Weaver and Harris were tried on a variety of federal criminal charges, including first-degree murder for the death of Deegan. In the successful defense, Weaver's attorney, Jerry Spence, accused the agencies that were involved in the criminal wrongdoing, in particular the FBI, the USMS and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, and the United States Attorney's Office for Idaho. Harris and Weaver were acquitted of all the siege-related charges, and Weaver was only found guilty of violating his bail terms and failing to appear for a court hearing, both related to the original federal firearms charges. The Weaver family and Harris both filed civil suits against the federal government in response to the firefight and the siege. In August 1995, the Weavers won a combined out-of-court settlement of $3.1 million. Harris was awarded $380,000 in a settlement in September 2000. In 1997, a Boundary County prosecutor indicted Horicki for the manslaughter of Vicky, but the county's new prosecutor, controversial, closed the case, judging that he would be unlikely to secure a conviction. The behavior of federal agents during these events drew intense scrutiny. At the end of Weaver's trial, the Department of Justice Officer of Professional Responsibility formed the Ruby Ridge Task Force in an attempt to investigate Spence's charges. The report raised questions about all the participating agencies' conduct and policies. After another inquiry was led by Senate Subcommittee on Terrorism, Technology, and Government Information, which held hearings between September 6 and October 19, 1995. It issued a report in which it called for reforms of the federal law enforcement in an attempt to prevent a repeat of the losses of life at Ruby Ridge and to restore public's confidence. Several documents and books were produced on the siege, the law enforcement response at Ruby Ridge during the Waco siege roughly 6 months later were both cited by Timothy McVeigh as his motivation to carry out the Oklahoma City bombing with Terry Nichols. And I encourage you to go investigate that even more. There's several documentaries you can watch on that. You can see the thug agencies killing a little boy. And look what happened. Weaver won in court, but he ended up losing his wife and his son because of incompetence and stupidity, and because he stood up and defended himself. That's what they don't want, people. They don't want people defending themselves. They don't want people standing up for themselves. They want you to comply, and they want you to do exactly what they tell you to do. They don't want people who are going to stand upon the Constitution and stand for their God-given inalienable rights. They want little lemmings. They want little simpletons. They want little groupthink, mongoloids, mindless, fluoridated, yes, little do-boys. That's what they want out of you. Seems no different today in Christianity in so many ways. God forbid somebody would have independent thought and think outside the box. God forbid. They hate those types of people. Those types of people are always labeled as the outcast in all society. The next event here I have is the Waco siege. April 19th, 1993. David Koresh, Mount Carmel Center Ranch in an unincorporated McLennan County, Texas, 13 miles northeast of Waco. Suspecting the group of stockpiling illegal weapons, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, obtains a search warrant for the compound and arrests warrants for Koresh and several of the group members. Whatever you want to think about David Koresh and the Branch Davidians and all that stuff, whatever you want to think about that, and whatever you want to think about Randy Weaver and Ruby Ridge, whatever you want to think about that, the facts are this. These people didn't commit any crimes. They committed no crimes. And the government That great government that's going to make you safe again. The government went on the offense against these people. And they did it, especially this incident, on live television, on national TV, in a time when William Jefferson Clinton, a great liar and magician, was in office. The ATF had planned a sudden daylight raid of the ranch. In order to serve these warrants, any advantage of surprise was lost when a local reporter who had been tipped off about the raid asked for directions from a postal service mail carrier who was coincidentally Koresh's brother-in-law. Thus, the group's members were fully armed and prepared. An intense gunfight erupted, resulting in the deaths of 4 ATF agents. 6 Branch Davidians, upon the ATF's entering of the property and failure to execute the search warrant, a siege was initiated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, during which negotiations between the parties attempted to reach a compromise. After 51 days, on April 19, 1993, the FBI launched a tear gas attack in an attempt to force the Branch Davidians out of the compound's buildings. Shortly thereafter, the Mount Carmel Center became engulfed in flames. The fire and the reaction to the final attack within the group resulted in the deaths of 76 Branch Davidians, including 20 to 28 children and David Koresh. In total, the 51-day siege resulted in the deaths of 4 federal agents. The 82 Branch Davidians, somewhere between 20 and 28, of whom were children. The events of the siege and attack, particularly the origin of the fire, and disputed by various sources of the Department of Justice reports from October 1993 to July 2000, conclude that although incendiary tear gas canisters were used by FBI and the Branch Davidians had started the fire, citing evidence from audio surveillance recordings of very specific discussions between Koresh and others about pouring more fuel on piles of hay as the fire started, and from aerial footage showing the last 3 simultaneous ignition points at different locations in the building's complex. The FBI contends that none of their agents fired any live rounds on the day of the fire. Ha! You need to go watch the footage. That's what you need to do. You need to go watch that they didn't fire any rounds. Go see it for yourself. The FBI critics contend that live rounds were indeed fired by law enforcement, suggest that a combination of gunshots, flammable tear gas was the true cause of the fire. And I'm telling you, you watch this video and you clearly see it was nothing but an attack on freedom. An attack on freedom. Slogans like "Make America Safe Again" is an attack on freedom. You people better start using your brains. The Ruby Ridge standoff and the Waco siege were cited by Timothy McVeigh as the main reasons for his and Terry Nichols' plan to execute the Oklahoma City bombing exactly 2 years later on April 19th, 1995. Now, the Oklahoma City bombing is just a good example of how the FBI and these other agencies that are so heavily funded cannot possibly keep you safe. They don't keep you safe. This is a perfect example of it. The first few examples that I've given are to show you how they don't have your intention to keep you safe. They have their intention to persecute you and put you in fear to submit you to their will. And the second piece of this is how they cannot possibly keep you safe. The Oklahoma City bombing was a domestic terrorist truck bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. perpetrated by anti-government extremists Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. The bombing occurred at 9:02 a.m. and killed 168 people, injured 680, and destroyed more than one-third of the building, which had to be demolished. The blast destroyed or damaged 324 other buildings and caused an estimated $652 million worth of damage. Local, state, federal, and worldwide agencies engaged in extensive rescue efforts in the wake of the bombing. Within 90 minutes of the explosion, McVeigh was stopped by Oklahoma Highway Patrolman Charlie Hanger for driving without a license plate and arrested for illegal weapons. If he had any intent, not to be arrested that day, he must not be very smart to be driving around without a license plate. That's just an opinion. They will produce people. They're always going to produce people. They're always going to produce a boogeyman for every single thing. And in this instance, they had domestic people. That's why when I was talking about in the video the other night, whether it be a foreigner or a domestic person is going to be important to the narrative. Because they already are pushing, we've got to get the foreigners out of here who are illegally here. And they haven't really been pushing anything on the American side of things. And now they have something for that, don't they? With Thomas Matthew Crooks. But anyways, not going to read any more into the Oklahoma City. I'm just trying to prove the point that they cannot keep you safe. We have all these agencies, Department of Homeland Security, the ATF, the FBI, the Secret Service, the CIA, have all these different agencies, and yet they can't seem to keep you safe. Shouldn't that be a problem to you? As these branches, these departments are insanely funded, shouldn't that be a problem to you? Instead of getting angry about the incident, shouldn't people be asking questions as why there are always these problems with these agencies? Can never seem to do their job? It's the ones that are always crying about the problems. They're the ones that are causing them. And that's what we have before us with this insanity, is what I like to call it. One, because of who the people that are running this game on the people, they are insane. And two, the American public is insane because it questions nothing. The next thing here I have is 9/11, and there's no need for me to really go into 9/11. All you need to know is that NORAD was not even up and running that day. The North American Air Defense Command was not running that day. It was stood down. It was on a training op. Just so happens. Two planes hit the World Trade Center towers, and the towers fell perfectly on themselves. And I've seen video after video after video of demo experts clearly saying that the buildings were demoed. Jet fuel didn't cause the perfect collapse of the World Trade Center. There were charges in those buildings before it happened, proving the point that it's a staged event, and proving the point that people were sacrificed on that day by criminals like George Bush and Dick Cheney of the Skull and Bones, George Bush of the Skull and Bones, secret society at Yale, father of Herbert Walker Bush, a Skull and Bones member of the secret societies at Yale. You want to know about him, all you have to do is type in New World Order and you'll see a famous speech, him pushing the New World Order right in the American people's face back in like 1991. And we went into Iraq and found no weapons of mass destruction, and I've seen video after video after video of George Bush just gaffing it off like it's no big deal. It's joke's on you, stupid people. Here's my middle finger. Go ahead and take it. Same thing with Afghanistan. Go over there for 20 years and get nowhere. Supposedly they found and took Osama bin Laden out. Supposedly. And they got Saddam. They got those big bad terrorists living over there in caves. How stupid. The very last thing I wanted to talk about, I was going to talk about the DC sniper attacks and how it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know if you people remember, that took place back in 2002 where a guy was just driving around randomly sniping people from his car in one of the most highly secured areas in the entire world, Washington, D.C. It just proves they cannot keep you safe. The whole point of you having a right to keep and bear arms is to keep yourself safe and others safe. So you don't have to have a militarized police. But people have gone so far away from reality that they don't even understand what that really means anymore. And that's why it's a perfect time for these things that are happening to start happening. It's perfect timing for a great leader, another Nimrod like Donald Duck, to rise up and have a great American revival. MAGA in Latin means witch. MAGA might as well say Freemasonry. The last thing I have here is the Boston bombing. Another reason why they can't keep you safe. And like I said, I could have given you an extensive list, and this video could have went on for 5 hours about how they cannot keep you safe. Just the idea of you entertaining the thought of them keeping you safe is you entertaining your own enslavement. That's you entertaining your own enslavement, the idea that they can keep you safe. They cannot keep you safe. They're not going to keep you safe. They're not trying to keep you safe. They're trying to run a terror campaign. That's why the war on terror, there's no real enemy. That's the whole idea behind it. There's no real enemy. That's why it never ends. It's not gonna end. It's gonna end with you being a slave to the New World Order. That's how it's gonna end. Going to give you that Adolf Hitler, one of the Adolf Hitler quotes I quoted from the other day. see here. Terrorism, quote, terrorism is the best political weapon, for nothing drives people harder than the fear of sudden death. Again, end quote. That's Adolf Hitler saying that. That's the same game being run on you today with this war on terror. There's no true enemy, therefore it never ends. It's all about making you safe again. The Boston bombing, sometimes referred to just as simply as the Boston bombing or Boston Marathon bombing, was an Islamic terrorist attack that took place during the annual Boston Marathon on April 15, 2013. On April 18, 2013, the Federal Bureau of Investigation released images of two suspects in the bombing. The two suspects were later identified as Tasnarev brothers. The Tasnarev brothers. Later on the evening of April 18th, the Tasnarev brothers killed an MIT policeman, Sean Collier, and proceeded to commit a carjacking. They engaged in a shootout with police in nearby Watertown, during which two officers were severely injured. One of the injured officers, Dennis Simmons, died a year later. Tamerlan was shot several times, and his brother Daskar, however you say that, ran him over while escaping in the stolen car. Tamerlan died soon thereafter. An unprecedented manhunt. This is what I want to get at. An unprecedented manhunt, Daskar Tasnarev, ensued with thousands of law enforcement officers searching a 20-block area of Watertown. And you should see the videos of the people just coming out with their hands in the air as they shut the whole city down to look for two people and infringe on the people's rights. And that's just how quick they can do it for you. And that's just how fearful people are when they see militarized police coming down their streets in MRAPs and MATVs, carrying 249 saws, and armed to the gills, armed to the teeth. A lot of people become a little do-boy real quick if they saw that coming down their street. Yes, sir, aye, sir, and no, sir will be coming out of their mouth. Residents of Watertown and surrounding communities were asked to stay indoors, and the transportation system and most business and public places closed. And after a Watertown resident discovered Daskar hiding in a boat in his backyard, Tasnarev was shot and wounded by police before taken into custody on the evening of April 19. During questioning, Daskar said that he and his brother were motivated by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Oh, what a coincidence. What a coincidence. But these things are just like I'm reading them right here. You can find the story right here. Read it for yourself. Investigate it yourself. Look at the video evidence. Look at the actual bombing when it took place, when it went down, all the crisis acting that was going on, all the fakery that took place. They shut down an entire town in a manhunt for two people. All in the name of safety. All the while the American people don't think that and don't realize that they're in a police state. And when you start going that route, you're going to lose. And that's why today you better be paying attention. You better go back. You better watch what these people say when they come on screen today. Because today's a very important day. If you're an American, today is a very important day. If you're an American, Thursday night will be a very important day. You need to listen to what these people tell you. You need to be paying attention to what they're saying. Because they're bolder than ever. And the reason for that is because they've got the game in the bag, and they know it. They know it. Like I said, pay attention to what these people say today. As today's subject that they're going to be speaking on at this convention is Make America Safe Again. And Ronald Reagan, another actor, known actor, one of your presidents. It's amazing how these people are actors. Donald Trump's an actor. Okay, he had a what do they call that, reality TV show, The Apprentice. He's done work for the WWF. I mean, these people are on the world stage. It's laughable. Laughable. Ronald Reagan was an actor. Donald Trump is an actor. You people tend to forget this. You're just blind to this stuff. It's not that big. Yeah, it's all for show. It's all for fun. No, it's not all for fun, because the fact that they would even do that and then come on screen and play a role in front of you, and for you to not think for 1 second that putting on an act in front of you, or it doesn't go through your mind at all, shows me that you're not thinking whatsoever. That's the greatest illusion of it all. Isn't it? Really. He said this, Ronald Reagan. Trying to get there, trying to get this quote here. The garbage truck coming through. Ronald Reagan said this, and quote, "The most terrifying words in the English language are," quote, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help," end quote. And so that's where I'm going to leave you today. And I pray that you'll pay attention. Pray that you'll wake up. Start seeing things for what they are. Start seeing things for what they are. Come out of the twilight zone. That's why I'm playing this music. Because a lot of you people are in the twilight zone. You need to come out of it. I wish you well. Till next time.